Hey everyone, welcome to episode 15 of An Inside Look. We're going to do something a little different today, and I'm super excited about it. Hear this? If you want to know what that's about, you're going to have to stick around, because we will get to it. We'll see you in a second. Okay, a world of difference from where we started the episode in the credits. We'll get to that in a second. I'm not going to tell you about this piece. I'm not going to tell you about the composer. We're going to break down this piece section by section, and then we're going to play it through. And the goal is to take something that's otherwise chaotic and maybe difficult to listen to on one time because there's so much happening. Can we, by how we break things down in a non-formal, non-theoretical way, create a sense of familiarity for you, the listener, so the first time you ever hear it all the way through, you feel like you know what's going on and are listening with maybe different ears. This episode is about how do we listen to something that is chaotic. So, let's start. The first section that we just played is the opening of this movement of piece that we are not saying what it is yet. And the word that comes to my mind for that is obsession. That, to me, it feels obsessive. And here's why. There is a motive. I know I shouldn't be using that word, but I'm going to use that word just in this case. A motive. Jason, can you play us the first, not including the grace note, but play it. Can you play us the first four notes you have?
Play the first grace note?
Yeah, you can play it, but play the first four notes. Great. One more time. Now can you just take out all rhythm and just play the notes in a row? Have that in your ear. Now play the very next couple notes that you have. Four notes. Okay, so that's pretty similar, right? Underneath that, Aviva starts something on a G-flat 16th note on the end of 4 in the second beat. Can you play those notes? Not in rhythm, just in 4 notes.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, and then Jason, can you play the end of 3 and that bar 3? Are you seeing a pattern? And then the very next bar I have. And in bar 5, end of 3, Jason has. And then in bar 6, Ryan has. And then Aviva in the same bar. And then the next bar, Jason has. And then Ryan has. Okay, so the point is, holy crap, we've gone through 7 bars, and I've counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 iterations of the same thing. Now here's what's really cool about this. In music, you have something called pitch classes, cells. And this is, does someone want to take this on, or should I just do a really reductive version?
Yeah.
Okay.
The low-fat version is good.
We have formal theory, right? A 1 chord, a 5 chord, a dominant, a tonic, and it basically gives the function of chords. When you get to a point where you start leaving that common practice functional theory and harmony, you get into pitch classes, which it breaks things down basically by numbers, is the super reduced version of it. So if you go to a Bartok piece, for instance, you're going to say, instead of having a chord progression, you're going to have a pitch class set, and that is what that motive is. This is, I think, what basically this is. It's not really functional in terms of harmony or common practice theory, but you hear it, right? There's little deviations in all the things that we played, but it's definitely the same thing. And then after bar 7, it appears everywhere. Now, a lot of the time, it's derivations of it. It's not exactly the same thing, but I don't think the point of this movement is that pitch class set. I think it starts with it, and we get started with obsession. Now, the very next bar, let's start in bar 8. So we already played this once, but let's go to bar 8.
Yeah.
And we're going to play from 8 until 19 once. We're going to slow it down. 1, 2, 3. So, again, we want to see if we can break it down even though we don't know the piece. There's basically only two things happening here. Even though there's a lot of tonality that's sticking out there, really Ryan and I are doing one thing, and Aviva and Jason are doing one thing. Now, Jason has the main thing, and Aviva's supporting that. Not always exactly, but could you two just play on your own from that same bar? Wonderful. Now, under that, Ryan and I have this thing where we're playing around with this motive a lot. And again, it's not exactly the same. Sometimes I embellish his part, sometimes vice versa. But it sounds like this. Bar 8. So again, it's cool. He goes to pits where I have lots of really interesting orchestration.
It's like punctuates your notes in a way.
Yeah, but really, there's only two things happening, even though the four of us are playing. And this is a theme that comes back a lot in this piece overall. Quartet, very good quartet writing. Now, we all have something to do, but a lot of the time, in terms of where you need to direct your hearing, there's not that many things. It's the tonality that makes it feel chaotic, I think, a lot of the times. Let's go on. After this whole section, we get a new thing that I'm going to call is a wonderful conversation. We've even used this term in rehearsal. Let's just play from A, and we'll stop at 34. But this is what the section sounds like. Let's go back to tempo, too. I love this section. There's so much character. There's so many things going on. All right, let's break it down a bit. First of all, Aviva, can you and I just play? Mm-hmm. I think that I am the passive listener just here. My stance is giving emotional support for someone to be able to talk. But her part is really the interesting thing that's happening. Okay, so really interesting things happening. Some repetition, some echoes. Tonally, it's not even a thing. It's just, it is what it needs to be. But my part on its own... I think this is setting up what's about to happen in the rest of the movement. First off, rhythmically, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, almost like a march that maybe we won't arrive at. But it starts way back here. But of course, this is covered because we have this awesome conversation happening. Now, I'm going to play with just Ryan and Aviva, and I'm going to back down. I'm going to play way soft.
Okay.
So that you guys can hear just this awesome conversation that's happening. And right away notice, are they talking about the same thing? Do they have the same goal? Or are they just talking at each other? Are they responding to each other? What's going on? So there at the end, it's awesome. We come together, and Ryan's a little trailing behind us.
There's a moment of, where is he in the right place? Okay, he was.
What's your impression is just hearing that?
Yeah, it's like, well, first I should say one thing that's hard to deny is your pitches.
Oh.
That jumps out to me right away. That it's our friend from the beginning, but it definitely feels like a conversation. To me, it does sound like it's maybe the same conversation, but maybe differing opinions.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we have you to add to this. Can you just play your part on your own for the first handful of bars? So right away, first thing that we notice is, what are those pitches? It's our friend. It's still there. Like I said, it's there. But what sticks out to me is such a different character and quality of sound. That's over everything that's happening here. So we've started with a really aggressive, obsessive use of a motive. Then we've gone to orchestrated, where there's two things happening, Ryan and I, Jason and Aviva. And then we've come to this new section that's kind of much like, not really, but it's really about two conversations happening with this third thing on top of it that could be part of it, but doesn't necessarily have to be. And then Aviva and I come together, bum, 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 and Ryan is trailing us, almost like it's imitating life.
I was thinking about like what this conversation was kind of like. Okay, here's my take. I am Piglet. You are Eeyore, responding to things. You have this lovely, wonderful Winnie the Pooh outlook on life, and I have not decided if you are the rabbit or if you're Tigger. But that's where I'm at. Rabbit. It's a little too calm.
Oh.
You know?
Let me know, because that might change how I play it.
Sure, yeah. I'll
tell you. Melatonin or something.
All right, let's go on. Right after this, remember, we've had this bum, bum, bum. Ryan's answering us. We come to this point where it stands still. What's going to happen? We're going to play two bars, 35 and 36. Okay. Here's what these two bars sound like. What? Could we play 33?
Sorry.
We get this interruption. Now, I'm going to call this a gesture, right? It's notes. It's written down on the page. Yes, it's very formal. It's very organized. It's a gesture. We've had this conversation. We've had all these things. It comes down to this moment of question. And then you get this very obvious thing thrown in your face for 2 bars. And let's see what happens right after that. Jason, can you start us in 37? And we're going to play until 43.
Okay.
So again, you get this, I'm going to call this a tangent. Just for now. This is the tangent. It has nothing to do with the movement, even though we know it does. It's related in different ways that don't matter for right now. But again, it's really only 1 or 2 things happening. Jason starts with this triplet figure. Ryan joins. Then in 37, 38, 39, I join the same thing. And then for 42 and 41, we literally are all just together. Mm-hmm. Let's slow it down once so we can hear that. There's 4 of us, so we each have different entrances. But really, there's only one thing happening here.
Slower tempo?
37, slower tempo. Great. So, here's what's happened, again, to recap. We've had this conversation that's been happening. It winds down. Then we get this 2-bar very violent gesture that spins off a tangent. Almost like the gesture is like, hey, that's right, there's this thing. Let's play all of that. Let's go from 30 so we can hear how all these tie together. Back into tempo. Awesome. So this is how all of that stuff is tying together. And then where does he go? Let's play the next bar. This conversation comes back. I think it's great. I love it in my part. We've just had... I'll get back to that. Just simple. Who's there? The Viva has a thought. Jason has a thought. Ryan has a thought.
I have our good friend. Creeping. He's creeping around the corner. You didn't know he was there. Anyway.
So do you think the continual use of this motive, is that purely functional from a theoretical standpoint? Is it for a character thing? Is it recall? Like, why would a composer continually keep bringing something like that back?
Can I just say yes to like all of it? Because, I mean, especially like, well, not being a commissioned composer myself, I can just imagine how tough it could be to compose when you have so many influences.
Yeah.
And how do you organize? You know, the organization can be an expressive thing. It can also just be a thing of, okay, this is my own private way of organizing it. You don't necessarily emotionally relate to it. What do? I think it ties into what you said about obsession. It keeps coming back. That's very emotional.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing is, I think for like, let's call it an average listener, once you leave tonality, it's actually a really nice way to sort of, even if it's subconscious or not super conscious, like have that familiarity. Mm-hmm. You're constantly hearing this pattern of things. Maybe you're not aware of them all or notice, but you're hearing them over and over and over. And, you know, I think that's
how you
helpful.
know it's that piece. Yeah.
So quick recap, we've started with obsession, then we've had these two voice things happening, then we had a conversation, then we had a gesture that spurred a tangent, and then we came back, we recalled this conversation. By the way, that makes me think I want to play you guys something real quick. The prompt for that was what's it called? A snippet. The word is escaping me.
Snippet.
No,
Excerpt.
a jingle. A jingle that's in the style of a Good Morning America introduction.
Oh.
That was the prompt for that. But what I love about it is it doesn't give you the rhythm right away.
Yeah,
like you
it
could see
takes
me
a second,
bobbing. It's
yeah.
like it took me a while, and then I finally found it.
Yeah.
And then it it gets used over and over, very obsessively, very similar to how this obsession kind of works in. Okay, speaking, that was the tangent. So we had the tangent, and then we had the recall conversation, and then it goes to where I think it's been actually building to. I think it was hinting at a march. Now we actually get that march. So let's start at rehearsal B, and this is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a march, right? It's like a toy march. It's something playful. It's cheeky.
A piglet march.
What?
A piglet march.
Oh, yeah. I like that. So we've had the conversation come back. We do this thing now. This march idea is kind of formally introduced, but it does not stay for long. We get another interruption. I'm going to call it tangent number 2. Can we play this tangent number 2 that starts at 56? What a tangent! It just, we had this cute piglet march. All of a sudden, this thing, look at here, it's a completely different thing.
And also, just the feel of it just feels furious to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like a playful interruption. This is more of something more extreme, I suppose.
Is it arbitrary?
Uh,
Is it just random? He just pulled something and it's in there, or is there a connection to it?
Well, my notes are...
Is there a connection in any interruption?
Oh, and my notes are. Oh, and I. Oh, so was that figure anywhere in Piglet's March? If it was, it's derived so much, it's been turned on its head so much, I don't recognize it. I feel like it leaves it, and this violent outburst is no, this is the thing. Remember this? This is what this is about. And I love that. It's maybe not a tangent is not the best word for it. Musically, it feels like it is. But formally, no. It's like, no, this is where we need to go. Okay, so what happens right after this tangent? Let's play. That was awesome. Okay, so this march rears its head again, but this time, how's it different than the first time this march is there?
Well, it's longer. We get more parts out
Longer.
of there. Yeah.
It's faster too, right?
A
If we
little
play
bit
the
faster.
first, I'm gonna keep calling this because it's perfect. The first Piglet march at B, it's this. Now, if we play at C, this march that comes back after this very violent tangent, it's this. I have reinforcements, and it's a little quicker, like, no, this is what it's going to be. And then this little section ends at 71 with this. Can we play 71? Jace, can you sit out? 2, 3, 4. Is that familiar to anyone? Remember at the beginning of the first conversation that was happening between Ryan and Aviva, it ends with, but Ryan is behind us. Yeah. So Aviva and I together, all of a sudden it's now within this march. We have the same conversation, but the three of us are on the same page, and it comes to an end. But then it gets interrupted with another, you can call it a tangent, you could call it a gesture, whatever you want to call it. But could we play 74 without, I'm just going to cue beat 2 of 74.
Okay.
You could write that however you want with notes. To me, it does not sound like notes. It does not sound like a rhythm. That sounds like my 16-month-old wanting to watch TV and me saying no, and then him having a tantrum. Like that.
Poor little guy.
Let's play back from C now. This is the march that comes back the second time. I have reinforcements. There's a little bit more speed to it, a little more insistency. Notice now, over this, what Jason's part is doing. And right when it finally gets going, Aviva and Ryan and I match together on this little descending 3-note scale. But then we interrupt ourselves. Jason, can you play for us in 71?
Sure.
Thank you. Now can you play for us? No, so right after that, we get this little interruption that we talked about. Mm-hmm. Then 76, can you play from there? Then we get the same thing, but it's a little different. So it's the same idea. It gets extended by a bar, and underneath that we have the same bum bum bum. Yeah. It's a little different, but I love that. So we've had this march. We have this thing where we've come together, the three of us. Jason has over it. We have an interruption, tangent. We try it again. It's a lower in pitch. It's slightly different, almost like it's defeated. And then he goes somewhere absolutely crazy. But before that, I have to play you guys something else. That was a jingle that was developed for an HBO special.
So are you eventually gonna go
we'll
there?
get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. Well, let's go. Keep going. We've just had the second repeat of da da da, trying to resolve, and here's where he goes. Let's start in 76. So this is the second attempt that we're making of trying to end this section, and it feels like it might get defeated, and it goes somewhere where we don't expect. What? It's like for a second, almost like bebop's very similar to this last jingle that we just heard in terms of this three kind of feel that's there. It sounds complicated, but it's actually not that complicated. In my part, it's a series of three notes. That just keeps going descending, but it's three notes. But now if I put that in the context of the rhythm that it's written in, it creates a cross rhythm because it's against the two. Jace, can you just clap or snap a two for me? Again, you get groove that I think is very reminiscent to this jingle that we just heard. But it's created by the meter that's written on the page and the material. Now, in terms of actual material, there's not that much there, even though it's very chaotic. You and I double each other. And you guys have your own thing. So again, there's not a lot there. So where does he go after that? After that kind of a tangent, where can you possibly go? Let's play 91. We, in a way, get the most extreme of either end of a spectrum back to back.
Yeah.
We've had, from the beginning, obsession, pairs, conversation, tangent, gesture, conversation, piglet march, interruption of a tangent, march version 2, interruption, second tangent, that's the most extreme in tempo and in dynamic and in intensity.
And thickness.
And
triple and double stops.
Yes. And that is followed by the most serene thing that we've had up to this point. And there's only one voice. The four of us are playing. When we started, I know we're literally all playing the same pitch in different octaves, but it gets separated then into the two. But it's almost like you're taking a moment to recall or to collect your thoughts. Let's see where he goes right after that. Can you give us the can we start right in 99?
Sure.
So it's kind of this march feel again. It's like trying to find it. If you hear just my part in the third bar, it has that march feel, but of course that gets interrupted. Aviva, can you play with me from 101? So these little
Sort of frantic.
Yeah, exactly. These little
bursts
things that
of-
happen, but then and it's out.
Yeah.
I have a septuplet with Ryan, which makes it feel very off, but the overall pulse doesn't change, so you still have that march feel that's being interrupted with something. And then we get this long chord. Can we just play 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 107, the chord that we have there? So again, that to me is very questioning, or what's the word? It creates anticipation, suspense. All of these things. There's
It's very long.
It is very yes.
Our composer has really told us this is how many beats, and it's really long.
Yep. And right after that, here's what we get. Oh, wow. third attempt at this march. This time it's even faster, and it's orchestrated in a even more different way. I have the collineal hits, which is hitting with the stick of the wood of the bow. You have pits,
Yes,
right?
but it's a little. I have a lot of notes that don't kind of go together. So yeah.
And Jason's playing around with our friend. The motive is there. It's making it's rearing its head, and it also goes longer before it gets interrupted. Right where we stopped is where it's about to get interrupted, with another tangent that to me is almost when you look back on something in your life.
Nostalgic.
It's almost nostalgic in a weird way. Can we just play from 129? You'll see what I mean. The marches have been going for a while, and Ryan and I are going to interrupt it with forceful nostalgia. 129. I don't know why. I think it's humorous. Yeah. I think it's hilarious. And the way it's orchestrated, I have this very lyrical. But then we have Ryan pitching that with me. What a fantastic use of percussion or percussive elements.
You know, a lot of this reminds me of, and again, this is reductive, but Mickey Mousing.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, it just makes me think, like, you could put a really, interesting story to this, or it could be, accompanying a cartoon, or it could be, it's this happens and then this, and it's not, really trying to be too sensitive about it. It's now this is happening, then it's this gesture, and then it's this gesture, and then it's this character.
It's a little more Tom and Jerry. Just
or Winnie the Pooh.
With the surprises. And things.
I think that what happens next, right after my and Ryan's nostalgic tangent or interruption or gesture, whatever you want to call it, I think we get, for me, the thesis of the march. Finally, we've arrived at true march territory, and dare I say, it makes me think even of Shostakovich, a Shostakovich-style march, but it only lasts for 3 bars. But let's play those 3 bars with Jason's pickup. So this is pickup to 137. I think that could come out of some other composer like Shostakovich in the way it's orchestrated. The dryness, we each have 8th notes with staccato markings, which mean very short. And the starkness of Jason's part, these long lines, and the tonality, all of this makes you feel like all of these different marches, here we've kind of arrived. But then we leave it very quickly. Can we start same spot in 137? And I want you, it's the first time you're hearing this, and I know it is, because I don't believe anyone has played this quartet other than us. So I know this is the first time you've ever heard this.
In fact, we haven't even played this for the composer yet, right?
That's
so
true.
there may be, huge changes or stylistic things.
Yeah.
So this is actually kind of interesting. I don't know, we've done an episode like this before, right?
Yep. So we're going to start where this Shostakovich-style march is for 3 bars, and then I want you to notice what happens. What's the pairing? Is it 1 voice? Is it 2 voices? Are we doubling things? All of these type of things. Is it gestures? Are they tangents? Does it sound familiar? Does it sound new? Let's just play from 137. So it almost leaves what we've had in the movement and goes to almost quasi-recitative territory. We're all doing the same thing. Again, some ornamentation and embellishments, but it's basically 1 voice. And the same thing, a lot of pauses, a lot of things left up to interpretation of where the agogic shape might be. It feels like a recitative to me. Of course, the challenge is we have to do it as a quartet. And then it ends, but I don't want to play the ending because we have to wait for the run-through for that because it makes it more fun.
Sure.
And let me play you guys one other thing. of awesome, really neat rhythmic things happening in there. Okay, I think I need to finally pull back the curtains, say what's going on here. Okay, so we were approached by composer Gary Esco about 5 months ago, who had written a quartet called Remo's Revenge. And Phil handed our information to him because they were not in a position where they thought they could look at it. So we took it on and said, okay, we could look at doing this. And we worked out a way to record it for Gary. The piece is called Remo's Revenge. It's a string quartet in 4 movements. And first off, it's a fantastic piece. As you're going to see, we'll play through the whole second movement, which we've worked through now at the end of this. But a really fantastic piece. It's really well organized. You can tell the person who is writing it is a performer, in my estimation. This has been written from the standpoint of someone who knows what it feels like to play music. All of these little tangents that I've been going to and playing are by Gary. He had a big part of his career writing jingles. Now, he was very kind to let me use these because, as he said, if you don't know the jingle world, it's a very quick turnaround. So a lot of the stuff is unfinished because why would it be if it didn't end up getting used for something? But nonetheless, he let me use it. It's so fun to hear because the more I've gotten to know Gary, the more I've gotten to know this piece, Remo's Revenge, and the more I got to listen to these, I hear Gary in all of it. And I think that is amazing. Last week, we looked at Ingratitude by Charles Nichols, where we looked at this idea of a musical thank you, being able to take something so personal as to what a person can do to influence someone's life and then write a piece in turn for them that can show that. Well, here's an example of someone's personality being so unique, so idiosyncratic, and so multi-dimensional that you can't help but hear Gary in it. And I want to show you guys what I mean. I had an interview with him. It was about 40 minutes, and just because of time, I cut it down to as short as I could. Now, I didn't put anything out of order. I just cut out some things to make it a shorter clip. But I want to introduce you guys to Gary, because you've actually never met him either, only because I've been doing the working with him, the talking with him. So let me introduce you guys to Gary.
I was at my mommy's knees when I was in first grade, said, "Mom, don't make me wait until third grade to take piano lessons." Yeah, I started out as a blues and rock guitarist.
Okay.
And then around 18, 19, I just absolutely fell in love with John Williams and Segovia and did my 6 hours a day for the next period of years. After I got out of the Albany State University, decided, what am I going to do with my life? I said, I want to take a graduate course. I stayed for a year at my parents' place. My father was president of this community college. And I got turned on to Palestrina and Counterpoint. And I got turned on to a book by Carl Schachter, who I went on to study with, the theorist Carl Schachter, who is at Queens College, on Schenkerian analysis. I immediately just fell in love with writing Counterpoint. And I took a degree then at Queens College in music theory in Schenkerian analysis. So my friend Ani, who's older than me, called me up one day when I was in my 20s, because he found in Gristides on 86th and 3rd Avenue, Gary Esco music theory guitar lessons. He was in the Average White Band. He wanted to learn theory. He came up as my student. We immediately became friends, wrote songs, made records together. We're friends to this day. He said, did you ever see the filmed story of Horowitz going back to Russia? And I said, I think I did see that for you. He was asked to join the James Brown band, my friend Ani. So I had the same discussion with Ani McIntyre of the Average White Band. But when he puts a feel on something, oh my God. And he's asking me about Horowitz, if I'm interested in Vladimir Horowitz as he is. Isn't that great?
Now, having digested this second movement, what happens in this movement? Formal theory, formal analysis is there. Something gets set up and this tangent happens long enough for you to forget what the story is. Then it comes back. It's all there. The tangent is related to music, but it's a different style of music. It's pop. In this case, the Average White Band. All of these things, it's in this music. And what I get from that is Gary is a musician through and through. And I see it when I was talking to him. I see it in the jingles that I got to hear, and absolutely in this piece. And I think that is an awesome connection that honestly I was not expecting to make at all going into this episode. And that's kind of where I took it. We have to round out the episode, though, because for you as a viewer, we wanted to see if now we could play the movement all the way through and hope that it has some kind of connection or meaning to you, even though technically it's going to be the first time that you've heard it performed all the way through. So, unless there's anything else, I think we should do that. This is the second movement of Remo's Revenge by Gary Esco. if you liked what you heard, keep an ear out for this. Keep an eye out for this. We're going to the studio to track this and the rest of the movements at the end of February. And I don't know how or when it will be released, but we'll keep you up to date if you're interested in it. If you like what you hear, if you like supporting Bayo and what we're trying to do, by all means, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, like it, share it. All these things are incredibly helpful. It's about literally building numbers of audience online. Because if we get to a high enough number, then we can actually monetize these videos and start trying to develop some income from all of us that we're doing. So it really is literally helpful for you to, I also feel dumb saying like me, not that, but like it physically, subscribe, all these things. Or tell someone about it. That's also incredibly helpful. Anything else that I'm missing?
What a wild ride.
Yeah, no
Oh,
kidding.
boy.
And that's only one of the movements.
That's only one.
Yeah.
We should say a huge thanks to Gary for letting us do this episode, especially because, like you said, Jason, he's not even heard this yet.
Right, and this is still really new for us. I mean, still figuring out how things work and how, communicating with each other. And, normally we don't do that with an episode like that. But
let us know if you enjoyed this episode, this style of episode. We'd be happy to do more like this, where we literally just break down section by section what's happening. And otherwise, everyone take care and have a great rest of the day. Thanks.